but we just decided that was a technicality, and so we put an ad. Tabor was a advertising major at the time, so we sat up one night over a bottle of bourbon and decided to craft the perfect ad for the house. And so he came up with this ad, and the two others, it was Charlie and Craig, were leaving, and they were going, you guys are crazy. You're never going to get any more money than we're paying. I think we're paying some outrageous fee like $300 or something. It was something crazy for a 4-bedroom house out in the country.
Really cool.
And oh yeah, it was a great house. Anyway, we crafted this message. They said, you guys, they were humorous, and they thought, oh, this is funny. You guys, we'll see what happens. Well, we put an ad in the paper, and it got answered like the next day. And it was these 4 sorority girls who were not yet in town. They were coming up that fall, and their boyfriends from some fraternity came out to check the house out. And they're like, yeah, this will work. And so they plopped down a deposit, which we were unprepared for, because suddenly we find ourselves homeless. And we were thinking this was going to take a little while, So anyway, it took like overnight. The next thing we know, it's like we're wandering in downtown Athens. It's a fall morning, and we're kind of the chill's starting to set in, and the reality of setting in. It's like, God damn, we're homeless. What are we going to do? And so we're walking downtown Athens, and there was a building that was being cleaned out. The guy was setting up a restaurant in there, and he comes dragging a trash can out the front door. He's filthy dirty, and a cloud of dust comes out with him. And we were looking at the building. It's a beautiful old building. It's right in the epicenter. Now, like if you were to put ground zero of Athens, that would be that building. And so we say, hey man, what's going on with the upstairs of this building? And he goes, are you guys entrepreneurs? and Bill and I look at each other and like, absolutely. That's exactly what we are. And he says, oh, it's the second floor is not too bad. The third floor is a wreck. You can't do anything with that. But here's the keys. Go check it out. And we're like, right on. So we go upstairs in the second floor. Yeah, it's a warren of rooms. Like 10-foot ceilings, old schoolhouse globes, drywall, one big arch-top windows facing the street, and the rest of them are just kind of a warren of rooms. It had a bathroom in there with a toilet and a sink that had probably been installed shortly after the invention of indoor plumbing, and they were but they were still functional. And so we go to the third floor, and it's like, oh boy, we gotta have this. And it's this one giant room with 3 windows facing College Avenue, a fire escape
ball up there.
Yeah. Oh, we played tennis up there, riding bikes around it. It was great. It was a great big room, but it was filthy dirty. Dead pigeons, skeletons, dust all over the floor. I mean, it was really rough. No plumbing, no electricity. And we're like, perfect. This is great. And so we found out who owned the building. And I don't know, do you remember that guy, Leonard Postero? Leonard's Losers. He was a football prognosticator.
Oh.
And he had a syndicated column in the papers called Leonard's Losers, and his big thing was
Predict the losers.
He predicted the losers, and that really set him apart from all those other people that predicted the winners. So anyway, he had a thing going on, and it was his uncle Frank that owned the building, and Frank was this old guy. He was probably in his 80s even then at the time, and he was sitting in his house. We went over to his house to try to talk him into renting us this place. And he's, back in an easy chair, and he's got an oxygen tube in his nose, and he's sitting in there going, he's like, what do you kids want? And he said, we want to rent your building. And he goes, all right, $200 a month. And we said, all right, but we really want the third floor as well. We want both floors. And he goes, third floor is all right. And he says, tell you what, we'll leave it in a tenable condition if you rent us both floors for $200. And tenable condition is it's a negotiable term, It's like, meaning it has to be a little better than it was when we found it, which we were fully planning on doing that. So he rented us the top 2 floors of that building for $200 a month, and we moved in immediately and started cleaning it up, and it was a filthy wreck. And our friends would come over and just go, you guys are out of your minds. And we were like, yeah, but look at this. And they go, yeah, you're out of your minds. And so we finally got it cleaned up enough that people started thinking, maybe you're not out of your minds. This is actually kind of nice.
Cool.
It actually looks good. And so we decided to inaugurate it with a party. And we were sitting around one night before cleaning up, and Bill at the time, he liked to smoke the weed back in the day. And we would sit around at night, and I would go along with him. I was terrible at it. He was great at it. But anyway, we're sitting there after a long day of working.
Bad weed smoker.
Well, because it just made me, I go non-functional.
Okay.
He, I guess, being so ADHD as he is, it focuses him.
Oh.
It makes me go, and I just turn into
A mushroom.
well, I get, it probably makes me autistic or something, where I can't, everything is equally relevant, and I can't, make a decision. I just, and go. But he cannot make a decision without it. So anyway, we're sitting around after a long day of cleaning up, and it's filthy dirty. We're sitting under the light, and he looks over and he goes, "This place is just about a goddamn 40-watt club." And I started laughing. I said, "That's exactly what it is. It's perfect." And he goes, and so we laughed about that. And then the next day we said, "Let's have a party to inaugurate this place." And what's, Halloween, that's the party we're going to have. And so at the time, we were, I don't know if you remember, Andy Warhol had a newspaper called Interview Magazine. And it was a large format, printed on like newsprint, but it's 4-color printed and nice. And he had this, typical, downtown, inside the New York snobbery, It had pictures, big full-page pictures of soon-to-be famous people who we didn't know because we weren't cool enough to know who these people were, and he didn't need to bother to tell you who these people were because if you didn't know them, you're just not cool enough.
Put it on pause. Buddy Darden's here. Come on in, buddy. This is Buddy Darden. He's
going to a funeral too.
You have to turn your phones off.
I was told to dress up.
Good.
Put it on pause there. Okay.
There we go.
Did I put it on pause?
No. You can just stop talking. You don't have to turn it off.
Put your mouth on pause.
Buddy, come on in here.
I have trouble with that.
Curtis Crowe, son of Arthur Crowe, very famous lawyer. His dad was very famous, Marietta royalty, is giving us about his Athens music experience in the 40-watt club. Sit down and.
I saw where Terry died.
Yeah.
She did just the other day. Yeah.
They're having a big celebration of life next month, and we're going to be there.
Yeah, February 21st, right?
That's right.
At Curtis's home.
And you know Tom Hunter, right? Jeanette's
Of
son.
course.
Jeanette Hunter.
It's good to see you.
Let me brag real quick, buddy. He was the congressman from here for over 12 years.
Right.
He's elected district attorney. He's served in the State House of Representatives. He's a successful lawyer. He's a Democrat, and he's progressive. We love him, and glad to have you, buddy.
And the best thing, he married Miss Bud.
There you go. There you go.
That's
Will.
When was in
You're right.
their wedding?
When was in their wedding?
Yeah.
Well, after
She was
their
a fourth
wedding.
grade school teacher.
His wife was the school teacher of my sister at Newport Hills Elementary School.
So I always knew her as Miss Bud.
Yeah.
When was at my wedding?
Yes.
Yeah.
That will be 58 years ago.
Wow.
This month. February, yeah.
Buddy, this is Tyler Green. He's now a member of the Kiwanis Club.
All right.
He's the youngster here. We have various
Young
age
blood.
brackets. But anyway, let's get back to Curtis Crowe regaling us about his, and we are recording this, so, and don't worry about if you confess to murder, I'll edit that out, okay? But if you confess to a misdemeanor that the statute of limitations is expired, I'll leave that in.
Everything I'm telling you is absolutely true, unless it's illegal, in which case I've made it up completely.
That's good. Okay,
But
you were
the
talking-
40 watt is
Yeah,
what
40
you
comment.
ended up.
Yeah, so anyway,
Halloween party.
So we went around and we tore pages out of Interview Magazine of these soon-to-be famous people that nobody knew who they were except the cool downtown people in New York. And we wrote little word bubbles over their head that said, "I don't know about you, but I'm going to be at the 40-watt club for Halloween." And we put these up all over town, not telling anybody what the 40-watt club, where the 40-watt clubs, anything. We think it's Halloween. If they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. We were kind of using the same game that Andy Warhol was, like figure out if you're cool enough, you'll figure it out. And so I mean, you know, as most things that we did, we didn't really think it all the way through. We just said, yeah, come on, let's, you know, just put it out there. And but
It worked.
it did work because, you know, first off, Athens was a ghost town at the time. And at night, if there was any noise at all, you heard it from 4 blocks away.
And there was nothing to do.
And there was nothing to do except frat parties. And so, you know, so we, you know, the band, of course, is always the same band as whoever, you know, we.
Strictly American.
It was, yeah, it was the band that I was playing in with
And do you
Craig.
remember the alcohol? How we got alcohol
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So,
Yes.
well, Gwen,
Thank you.
there? You came to me and said, listen, let's have a party. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in.
yeah.
I just had gotten a new corset.
So, yeah, that's the best part.
Neon green.
Yeah, so we ended up, I remember it's white. He was wearing the white.
Well, maybe it was white. Maybe it
It was
turned
What
white.
I-
It
what
was
I
black.
did.
Black.
It was
I-
white.
I-
It was white. I know.
Yeah. So we had our friends, all the girls showed up wearing lingerie to be the bartenders, which is always a hit. And we went out and I think we kited a check for a bunch of booze, and we bought a
No, you
keg
told
of
me it was
beer.
going to be a profit center and that I could make money doing it.
Well, we
So
did.
I went out and got alcohol, but then we decided you can't really sell it because it's against the law. So I said, well, let's just give it away.
Well, no. So what we ended up having to do? So
Yeah,
we
so
set up a sign,
exactly,
you know. So we said, you know, we set up a table at the top of the stairs. We're making this up as we go. I mean, like that day we're making it up. And
That
Tom goes out. And we went out in your Triumph Spitfire hatchback and opened it up and rolled a keg of beer and a bunch of booze in there. And it was not enough room for all of us. So I'm in the back, dragging my feet out the back door, and we got pulled over by the cops on the way pulling into the parking lot.
And we're all in costume.
And we're all in costume, and Tom is wearing head to toe. He's like the gold guy that stands on the side of the street.
Incoming food, what do you have for us?
I have the house salad. It has the Tucker Farms.
Peppercorn and ham. Thank
It
you.
has the balsamic vinegar, diced onions, and cucumber.
Thanks, Natalie.
Of course.
Now, the rules here, let me explain the rules. The protocol rules, when the food lands, serve yourself, start eating, even though the main event is talking, and we'll continue on. And so we don't like to let everybody here because people arrive in the party at different times. And so serve and eat, and now, let me say this. The rule is this. We have one group conversation, and whoever has the microphone is one. Now, you can ask questions, germane questions, and make comments, but you're not allowed to hijack. This is hijacking. That reminds me of the time I was in Paris, France in 1972, and I saw a bear on a bicycle riding backwards. Now, we were in the United States in Athens, and you just took us to damn Paris, France. Let's call it hijack, okay? So don't hijack. Back to you, Curtis Crowe, main event.
All right.
Remember where you're at?
I do remember. I always remember where I'm at. Yeah. So back, I can tell that I was a lot younger lad than I am now, because I remember carrying that keg of beer by myself up 3 flights of stairs. Not at a run, but not at I wasn't struggling. So I was a lot younger and stronger than I am now. And didn't even think a thing about it. But we got at the top, set up the bar. The girls are up there in their lingerie. And Brian McNair. So we set up Brian and we said, hey, somebody's got to set up we're going to set up the door and collect money here. And I get Brian, I said, Brian, all right, first off, we are not charging admission. We are strongly suggesting a $2 donation because it's a party and we cannot charge admission. That's illegal. And he goes, got it. I got it. I'm all over this. I got it. So we go, okay. We come back. He's made a sign. It says admission, $2. Geeks, $3. And I was like, Brian, God, that's exactly what I told you we cannot do. And he goes, no, I got this. Watch this. And these 3 guys are walking up the stairs, and it's a long, straight shot of stairs. It's 3 flights long. And it's spooky and dangerous in an old, dilapidated building with crumbling plaster and really bad lighting. And these 3 guys are coming up the stairs. And, once you're halfway up, you're committed. You just got to go to the top. And he goes, and they get to the top, and they're looking around kind of spooked. And Brian looks at him and goes, you, $2, you're a geek. That'll be $3. And they just happily pull out their money and give it to him. I went, all right, he's got this. It's fine. So the party goes off. It's a roaring success, packed to the gills. And I'm kind of shocked now that we didn't have structural failures. Like
Someone didn't die.
Yeah, and I have been at parties in
More
Athens.
didn't fall in.
Oh, I've been at parties in Athens, 3 separate parties in Athens where floors collapsed during the party. It ended up in the basement. I've been at 3, and those are the ones I was at. So, and the next 40 watt, we had some near catastrophic failures over there because of that. But that night, Tom was there wearing gold from head to toe. I can't remember what I
I
had.
had a suit on.
Tabor had a tuxedo on.
Who was
all the
the
girls.
American? Who were the?
That was me, Charlie, Charlie C, Craig.
Boyd parents.
Was Boyd in it?
Yeah, he was the singer.
Oh, okay. And then we had, and who else?
Jeff Ross in it.
Jeff.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jeff was in it.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, that's right.
He was.
Jeff.
I forgot about
You
that.
actually had a real musician in the group.
Yeah,
The rest of
he
us
had a
just
real
kind of hanging out.
musician.
Yeah. Jeff was always in every band that ever played. He was like the house band for all of us.
Everybody, yeah.
And so that was the 40 watt.
That was the birth of the 40 Watt Club.
Wow.
That was so
When,
much fun.
when did it move to the,
Well, we kept it going for a couple of, we had several more parties up there under the 40 Watt Club. And then at some point, Tabor decided that he's getting too old for this business. He's like, this town is full of kids. I think we were like 20 ourselves, 22 maybe. He's like, nothing but a bunch of youngsters are in there. I gotta get out of here. So he left town and left me. I was living up there by myself. And a little while later, a friend of mine, Paul Scales, comes up and he goes, hey, I want you to look at something. He was the manager of a sandwich shop across the street. And he said, hey, the guy that owns this place is gonna let me use the upstairs space as a practice space for my band. Everybody's in a band. So he goes, I want you to come check it out and see what you think. So I walk over there, we go upstairs. It's got its own separate side entrance. We go up to the top. It's a small room. The room's not a whole lot bigger than this room. And had windows overlooking College Avenue. It was directly across the street from our place. And it had a cooler.
Hey, Jody. Hey, Jody, well, he's our main event, so we're focusing on Curtis Crowe.
My apologies for that.
No. He's Marietta royalty and Athens royalty too. So
Yeah.
continue on. Now, let me do this. Now, the reason why I invited Curtis here, he tells a great story about how Bill Tabor got him into the movie set building business, and once he did it, he's been in it ever since, and he's built movie sets, TV sets. He's working right now on one with Sylvester Stallone, right?
No, I finished that one.
He's finished it, but he just finished it. Stallone's doing a TV series on a streaming service, and they needed a barn built, and he built a barn on a polo field in Vinings, Georgia. But anyway, I want you to focus in on Bill Tabor, how you got into the set building business and went to Jamaica for 4 months in your adventure into Jamaica, and also tell them about how Tabor gave you a list of things. Never admit you've never done this before. You've got to lie to tell them you've done this for a long time. But anyway, Curtis Crowe, give it up for Curtis. Clap, clap, clap. And now, we're recording.
I have a question before you move on. Were you in school during this time?
Yes. Kind of.
Was Bill in school? Did he ever go?
Yeah, he was in school. As a matter of fact, we would sit up there around the heater. This is how I got in a band, is that we would sit upstairs. We had rented the second floor out to art students. And that's where we made all. So our source of income was, we had.
Put it on. What's incoming food, Natalie?
We have the miso salmon and barbecue noodles.
Barbecue what?
noodles?
I'm gonna switch right here
Miso
between.
meat.
Miso
Miso.
salmon.
Miso,
Miso
yes.
salmon.
Is that the salmon?
Yes.
Okay, I can't hear. Okay, thank you, ladies. Okay, go ahead and start eating and everything. Okay, back to you, focusing on, let's do Bill Tabor and.
Yeah, Bill
same
at the
topic.
time was, he was taking an English lit class. And, you know, in his typical, you know, Bill's always trying to figure out a way around the rules. You know, he just never wanted to play by the rules. And so his English lit class, he just didn't want to read Shakespeare. And so he found books for the blind at the library, and he found he could check out these tapes. And, yeah, so we'd listen to them. So we'd sit around and we were huddled around the heater that winter, smoking pot and listening to King Lear. And then coming up through the floor was this band that was playing downstairs. It wasn't really a band, it was just two guys playing on a bass and a guitar. And it was this really, really repetitive, just little riffs over and over again. And you know, we'd sit up there and critique them and listen to them, and it's just over and over and over. And it's just it's like, finally I got to where I heard these things enough. I knew, you know, they were kind of like beginning sounds of songs and things. So I went down there and knocked on the door one day and said, "Hey, can I play drums with you guys?" And they said, "Sure." So we dragged in a set of drums, and then our band was formed.
Had you ever played drums before?
I had actually,
Okay.
when I was 9 years old.
I remember.
Yeah. And actually, I just played with the Strictly Americans, but that was the first time I'd played drums Strictly American since I was 9 years old. So there's a big gap in there. But anyway, so we started playing. Shortly after that, Bill decided he was done with school and he left, and then he went down to Florida. Actually, first the place he went out was out in California. He moved out to California. His sister was working at the time. Cherie was working for Disney, I think, and she was working in the accounting department. And she's like, "Bill, you've got to get out here. You wouldn't believe what these people are making." And, you know, she said, "I can't believe we're paying these people to do this stuff." So he goes, "Yeah, I'll check it out." And he flies out to LA and hangs out with her for a little while. He ends up getting a job working on one of those Freddy Krueger movies. What was it?
There was New Line Cinema.
Yeah, New Line
Nightmare on
Elm Street.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, he ends up working out there, and it's one of these kind of slash and burn operations where they're just hiring anybody.
Buckets
warm
of blood.
bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, buckets of blood and lots of, you know, just. And so they're hiring people all straight, and Bill walks in. He actually knows how to build things, and they're like, "Oh, you know, we're going to put you in charge because you actually know how to build things." And so.
Yeah, his daddy's rental business helped
Yeah,
him with
yeah,
that.
his
He
dad's-
had
And
to
worked for
flim flam things
Yeah,
together.
yeah. So he actually did know how to build things. Yeah.
Yes, he was the mushroom.
Yeah, so anyway, he left there, finally moved down to Orlando, Florida, which you were with him when he moved down there. You want to take that part over?
Okay. Tom Hunter, introduce yourself.
Tom Hunter.
Closer.
Tom Hunter.
Closer.
Is this good enough?
No, I can't hear. Closer.
Oh, okay. Can you hear now?
Closer.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Now you go.
Put it in your mouth.
Yeah, it really does have to be that close. So anyway, when Bill was, he left California and he moved home back to Marietta, Georgia, and he decided he was going to get married. He met Elaine Casey, and Curtis was his best man at his wedding, and I was one of the groomsmen. And Elaine, Bill wanted to go down to Florida and see if he could get a job in Orlando just in the Universal Studios. So I drove Elaine's car down to Florida with him. And when we got down there, had just gotten into the apartment, and I would help him unload all the furniture, and we took it out of his van and unloaded Elaine's car. And we needed a break. And we walked into, there was a Publix grocery store there. Just the other side of the building was a Publix. So anyway, we're in there shopping. and we're getting just a few things to eat, and a 6-pack of beer, that kind of stuff. And we're in the checkout line, and I said, Bill, you know, you're gonna have such an easy time getting a job here. It's amazing, you know, because with your history of being the construction manager at New Line Cinema and all those Freddy Krueger episodes you shot, you did like 4 years of making sets on the Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street for the movie and the television series. So I'm standing there going, just went through all of that, and the guy in front of us in the checkout line turns around and hands us his business card. And he says, I'm the art director of a new television show that's just being started tomorrow. Will you meet us at 6 o'clock at Studio so-and-so? And that's how he got a job.
What was the name of the show?
It was called,
Superboy, wasn't it?
it was called Superboy in this iteration. And Dean Cain came in after the young man who'd been the star of Superboy, 18 years old, had gotten, he was being paid $500 an episode, or $500,000 an episode
Back then.
at
Put
18.
it on pause. What do we have incoming, Kiki?
This is olive caprese wrap, no meat in it.
I love
Fish,
wraps.
this is fish wrap, and then I told him he was
It's all you can eat too. Thank you. And
Love me some wraps.
back to you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, so he said, I'm Tim Duffy, I'm the art director. Anyway, the poor boy, he's just gotten this job, was being paid $500,000 an episode. And we had like 3 episodes in the can, so he goes out and bought a brand new Corvette Saturday morning, and at Saturday night, he's pulled over for doing in excess of 100 miles an hour, drunk in downtown Orlando. So we get going to work on Monday morning. He gets fired on the spot, and they brought in Dean Cain to be his replacement. And then they changed it to Lois and Clark.
Oh, okay. And that was the name of that series.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so,
I want to circle back to the main event, is that your call talking with Bill Tabor about you needed a job because you just had a baby, had a family. Go ahead, start there.
So right at this same time, I had gotten our band, which had started from listening through the floorboards, had kind of gone out and we made records and we did tours and, you know, we'd actually.
kind of following even now.
I know, it turned into something. It was really bizarre, but I mean, we weren't intending that, but we went out on the road. We opened up for U2 on their very first 2 shows in the United States. And they were like, oh, we like you guys. You want to go on the rest of the tour with us? Nah, we don't want to do that. And because we're artists and we're going to break up. We're just doing this as, you know, we're the kind of tourists in the music industry. Yeah, you know, I was like, oh God, guys.
What's incoming?
Margarita pizza.
Thank you.
He wants to know, Chef want to know, do y'all still want spaghetti? The red pasta spaghetti?
Anybody want spaghetti? I'm
That's what he figured. He told me just ask, and then we got you
Do you have any more fish?
more salmon.
Well, there's one piece.
Bring it down.
Matt liked that. It was good.
Tyler, you're not eating? I'm good. You sure? Yeah. Okay. Okay, back to you. You have the floor.
Okay.
Curtis Crowe.
I didn't know where we were. Oh yeah, so our band had been traveling, and one of our notable features of our band is that we kept breaking up. We got together, we'd break up, we'd get back together. We had a lot of farewell shows, but our last one was pretty spectacular implosion. We had just finished a tour. We had opened up for REM on their last leg of their Green World Tour. We'd opened up for B-52s on one of their summer shed tour, playing in these outdoor arenas. And we were scheduled to make another record that would have been our 4th record. We had a studio booked and a producer lined up, and everything ready to go, and our guitar player was just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, Randy, come on, let's at least make the record and then we quit. Nope, don't want to do it. I'd rather do anything. And so it's like, okay, the band implodes. And I didn't fight it too hard, mostly because, hell, I'm in my 30s now. And I've got a 2-year-old at home, and my wife is pregnant, and it's kind of a hard sell to go out on tour in a business that is a great way to almost make money. And so, we're out on tour, and we'd come back from a tour, and hi, hon, kiss her hello, and do you have $5 so we can get something to eat? And, it was, you didn't make any money at that. A little bit, but just enough to, to keep it going. And so I didn't fight that too hard. And at the time, I had supplemented rock and roll by being a carpenter, working around town. And there's a whole group of us, kind of Athens all-stars. We all get together, and one of us would get the job, and the rest of us come work for that guy. And so sometimes I'd get the job, and they'd all come work for me. And it was just a kind of a rotating cast of characters. And so whenever I got back home from a tour, within a couple of days, I would be working on something. And we were all fixing up old houses and having a big time. And Tabor kept calling me, going, you need to get down here and work with me. You'd love this. You'd love to do, this movie thing. It's like, I can't do it. I got a wife and kids, and I'm settled here. And he said, I'm going to quit calling you. I'm going to give up on you. You're going down he kept saying, no, you're just going down the little Athens whirlpool, getting sucked down. I said, yeah, maybe so. But, so anyway, the band implodes. I'm a boy in this truck. I'm barely making enough to get by. And I got, a baby in the oven. I have to do something. And so I called him up, and I was like, Bill, I'm looking for some work. Do you have anything? And he goes, I might. I said, I just finished a job. But, they always go, stuff, the phone rings, stuff happens. And so 4 days later, he called back and he said, I got a gig in Jamaica. Can you go to Jamaica? And I was like, I don't know. Let me ask my wife and see if I can go to Jamaica. So I said, how long is it? And he goes, 4 months. I was like, oof. How much money is it? And he told me, and I can't even remember what it was, but it was like 4 times more than I was making. I said, so I go to my wife and I said, hey, what do you think? She said, we have to. We're broke. We can't afford not to. I said, okay. So that set into motion this really fast series of events that, like, from the time I said yes, he was pretty much like, you need to be down here in Orlando with all your stuff day after tomorrow, because the plane's leaving in 2 days. It's like, wow. So I didn't have a passport at the time, so I'm having a FedEx, I have a fast track a passport through the Miami field office, and they're going to send the passport. It was all just going to happen. I just had to trust that it was going to happen. And so the next thing I needed to figure out how I was going to get to Orlando. Because at the time, my vehicle was a 1961 Volkswagen pickup truck. And in 61, a gas gauge was considered an unnecessary frill on a Volkswagen. And so, I had been driving it to Atlanta, but it was kind of getting spooky to do that. But there's no way I was going to drive it to Orlando. And so I was calling around to any of my friends that actually had, like, real cars. And the only ones I knew that actually had a real car that you could safely take that trip was my friends Bill Berry, was the drummer of REM, and his wife Mary, and they had a brand new Jeep Cherokee, and I called it. I was like, Mary, would you be up for me? I just want to rent your car to drive to Orlando, and then have somebody bring it back, and I find something. She goes, yeah, sure, but listen, why don't you just get in touch with my friend Patrick? I think he's heading down there right now. I was like, what? He says, yeah, he has a moving van that he has to return to Orlando. I think he's leaving, like, right now. And so I call him, and she says, call him. And this is back in the day before cell phones. I'm calling a house. And he picks up and he goes, yeah, are you ready? Because we're like leaving right now. And I went, sure. And so he swings by the house, and I was like, babe, I gotta go. See you later. Kiss her goodbye. Throw my tools in the back, jump in the back of a U-Haul, and we leave town, like right then. And as we're driving, he goes, where are you going? And I go, I'm going to, I got a job in Jamaica. And he says, I just got back from Jamaica. Here's a map of Jamaica and a $20 Jamaican bill. I was like, awesome. This is great. Yeah, 20 which I did not know at the time. I thought, $20, that's not a bad start. It, you know, on a good day, it might buy you a beer. You know, it was worth, you know, maybe 50 cents or something, you know, at the time. I can't remember what it was worth, but it wasn't much. But I didn't know that. So, you know, so we drive to Orlando. We directly took Bill's house, threw the stuff out in the front yard. See you later, they take off and then drive away. And so Bill goes, come on, we got to crate all of our tools. The air freight company's coming to pick this stuff up tomorrow morning. So we drive down to Home Depot, we buy some materials, we build some crates, we put all the tools in it, we number and stencil the crates, we get our, you know, the tool manifest ready, all the stuff you need to ship stuff internationally. And then we go inside and said, that's it. Let's get a bottle of rum and I'll tell you everything you need to know about the movie business. He says, first, number one rule of the movie business, do not tell anybody you've never done this before. I was like, well, how do I do that? And he goes, just lie to them. They don't know. You know, so, and I was like, Bill, I'm the worst liar in the world, the most transparent, horrible liar in the world. And I can't do that. And he goes, well, you come up with something, because if they think you've never done this before, oh, they'll eat you alive and spit you out. He said, oh, they're ruthless. And so he sits down and he gives me the list of all the things I need to know. And I'm about to be the general foreman on a ABC television show, the Lorimar production. And this is a big offshore production. I'm in big time television. And I'm about to be the general foreman, which is the second in command of the construction department. He is the construction coordinator. And construction coordinator is kind of like, it's like a general, it's kind of like a general contractor in the world. You know, they're the guys, they get the plans, they do the pricing, they do all the organization. Well, the foreman is the guy that does everything. He makes it all happen. I've never done this in my life. I've never, the basic building unit is the flat. All right, what's a flat? All right, here's what it looks like. Here's how they're made. I've never seen this before in my life. I've never been on a movie set. I didn't know anything about it.
Did you know the?
Yeah, it was a thing called Going to Extremes, which was do you remember Northern Exposure?
Yes.
You remember that show? Yeah, this was their second follow-up to that. And they decided, we're going to do a thing called Going to Extremes. It was kind of like Southern Exposure. It was going to be a fictional medical school in a fictional island down in the Caribbean. And this is like where all the people that just didn't quite make it in med school would wash up on the shores down there. And they would have life adventures, and then eventually they'd get a medical degree. And so, I mean, it was a cute little story and everything. But so, he sits me down and he gives me all the rules of the movie business, like all the do's and don'ts. And the number one rule, besides don't ever tell anybody you've never done this, the number one rule is that the schedule is God, the budget is Jesus, and you may not fuck either of them. So it's like, got it. Wow. So I ended up writing these things down furiously with my yellow legal pad over a bottle of rum, listening to the Neville Brothers, and the next morning we got on the plane. And on the plane is me and Bill, and our bosses, the production designer, who's the head of the whole art department, and his second in command, the art director, who's like, he gives us all the marching orders. He puts it all in order.
Designs all the sets.
He designs all the sets. He does all the, he is what I am to Bill. He is that to the designer. But we're all on the same plane. We're flying to Jamaica. We fly to Jamaica. We get off the plane. We throw our stuff in the van. We immediately start scouting locations. We drive all day long scouting locations. I don't say a word. Sit there with my yellow legal pad, taking notes, furiously taking notes. Just zip my lips, don't say a word. We get off we finally finish up at the very end of the day. The sun's going down. We throw our bags in the hotel room. The designer goes, let's meet back down in the lobby. We'll all go ahead and get a bite to eat. It's like, great. We hadn't eaten all day, sure. throw the bags in the hotel rooms, come back down to the lobby, get in a car, drive to dinner, sit down at dinner, order a beer. The very, very first thing, the designer looks over at me and he goes, "So, Curtis, what other movies have you worked on?" It's like, yeah, I mean, I hadn't even been here a day yet, and he's already busted me the first words he's ever even said to me. And it's just like, and so I just went, tell you the truth, Fred, I've been out of the loop for a while. Falsely implying that ever I had been in the loop. I was never in the loop. Didn't even know where the loop was. But I said, I've been in a rock and roll band touring for the last, several years, which was true. And I just, kind of a little white line omission that I actually had been in a loop once. And it was enough to diffuse that whole thing. It was enough. And what I found out later, and it's weird, but well, there's something that the musicians are kind of held in a high esteem by movie people. And I've never figured out why that is, but a poor musician is held to a higher degree of, I don't know, a higher degree of status and respect than normal civilians would be. And why that is, I don't know. It doesn't, I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, but still they're like, "Oh, cool, he's a musician." So that was enough to diffuse that, and we get on the ground, and it gave me enough time to figure out what I was doing, because, listen, none of these guys knew what they were doing. I had a crew of carpenters. We put together a local crew of carpenters, and we just hired anybody that showed up. And the first set that we had to build was and they were doing a reshoot of the original first episode of the pilot episode that one of the actresses had not worked out, and they let her go and they replaced her, so they had to reshoot all the scenes that she had been in. And one of these scenes involved a scene where somebody had tossed a goat down in a well, and they were all trying to figure out how to get the goat out of the well. So we had to build the well, and there's a place for the camera looks down the well, the camera looks up the well. Okay, whatever. Well, they didn't give me any plans for this. They gave me a Polaroid photograph that had 2 people standing in the foreground waving hello, and in the background was the set that I was supposed to be building. So it was just an incidental, oh yeah, somewhere in the background is the thing that we want you to recreate, and it needs to be exact. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't even know what I'm doing here. And I'm so in this truck, in the back of a truck at 5 o'clock in the morning, pouring down rain outside, and just pounding down rain, and I'm sitting there going, looking at this photo with a flashlight, going, what the hell is this? And all these guys just chattering like crazy. I can't understand a word they're saying. It's like, stop, everybody shut up. And then everybody gets quiet, and I said, can you understand me? And this one guy in the back goes, yeah, man, we understand you. You understand us. And I was like, great, that's great. And I held up the photo, and I shined the flashlight on the photo, and I said, does anybody know what this is? Has anybody ever seen this before? And this one guy goes, yes, man, we work on the pilot. And I was like, really? What's your name? And he goes, Leroy. And I said, Leroy, you're the boss today. I'm following you. And they all laughed like hell. They said, the white man's working for Leroy. I said, that's right. That's right, Leroy. Lead out. I'm working for you today. And so we got out there, and there was just this pile of lumber and this weird stuff laying around there. And they built this thing that by the end of the day, it kind of actually, I went, oh my God. I could have done that so much faster and easier than they did it, but hey, at least it's there. And so Tabor drives up a little later on. At the very end of the day, Tabor drives up and he goes, oh my God, that's awesome. Thank you. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I said, how did your day go? And he goes, it was interesting. He said he went to the local hardware store, which is called Hole in the Wall. And Hole in the Wall is kind of like the Home Depot of Jamaica. And so he goes to the Home Depot of Jamaica, on the North Shore of Jamaica, where we are, and he looks on the shelf to buy nails and staples and things that you need. Well, they had 16-penny nails, which are like, that's what you nail boards together with. And usually you buy them in 50-pound boxes. Here, they had 10 nails taped together with a piece of tape, and they were on the shelf, and they had 2 or 3 of these, and he just went, and he says, do you have a box? And they're like, yeah, Mom, we have a box. And he goes, then I have the box. And he gets the box, and he goes down the shelf, and he scrapes off every single nail and screw and fastener, and every single item on the entire shelf, scrapes it into a box, and goes, do you have another store? And they were just looking at him like, oh, yeah, we do in Kingston. Says, I see you have a fax machine. Can you fax them an order for me? And they're like, we don't know how to use it. Nobody knows how it works. And he goes, oh my God. So that was his day one in the industry. That was his day one in the island. That was my first day in the business.
Hold on to your lug nuts. It's time for an overhaul.
Yeah. Well, so after that, we finally got a shop set up. And the shop was in this old building that was probably built in the 1500s or something. It was an old stone building with, trees for the rafters and sheet metal with holes all in it. And it was a dirt floor. It had been a barn of some sort. So they poured a rough concrete floor in it, and we had not quite enough power. It was 50 cycle power. We need 50, 60 cycle power for our equipment. So everything's overheating. So one day I'm sitting in there, and Tabor comes in and he goes, do you have a camera? And it's like, no. Why? And he goes, look around. I said, yeah, what? And he goes, look at this. If you didn't take a picture of this, nobody would ever believe you. And I look out and I go, yeah, you're probably right, because there's our table saw with a bag of ice on the motor to keep it from overheating and steaming. There's a hole in the wall that's about, I don't know, the stone wall collapsed maybe 100 years ago, I don't know. And there's chickens and goats wandering around in our shop. And there's our armed guard, because you had armed guards everywhere you went, because it's dangerous. Oh yeah, and so we had this guy, and he's asleep, sitting on my toolbox, asleep with an M16 tucked up under his chin, sleeping with an M16. I was like, yeah, you're right, nobody believed this. So a little while later, we finally got a rhythm going, and it started kind of happening. And a little while later, the transportation coordinator, he's the guy that drives all, arranges all the trucks and everything. And he drives down to the shop one day and he goes, hey, I heard you're a rock star. I was like, not really, no. And he goes, nope, that's not what I heard. I heard you're a rock star. I said, why? And he goes, we're starting a band and we need you to play drums. I was like, okay, did you bring your drums? I was like, no, I didn't bring enough underwear. What are you talking about? And he goes, you got any idea how to get your drums down here? I was like, it sounds like a transportation problem to me. And he goes, sounds like a set decorating problem to me. I'll get back with you. And so the set decorators, they're responsible for, so when, let's say we're building, this room is our set, let's say. I would build the walls, the roof, the doors, the floor, all that stuff.
They'd supply the TV.
Yeah, the set decorators would bring the table in here, the tablecloths, the television, the lights, they bring all that other stuff. The props people would give you, the stuff that you use in your hands that an actor touches. That'd be the props people. And so anyway, the next day, I guess it probably was not maybe a day, maybe 2 days later, that we're sharing a compound up on the North Shore. We have this beautiful place. It's a 5-bedroom beachfront villa with our own beach. And on our own beach, we have our own armed guards out there. These are guys like military guys with M16s. They're guarding our beach. And I'm like, this is some heart of darkness shit. I love it. It's awesome. We have, we're out there, but we never ever got to go to the beach because we were working so hard. I didn't even see the beach for the first 2 months we were there. I mean, I could hear it outside as I was falling asleep at night, but I never even got, and it was like you could throw a nickel and hit it from the bedroom. But, we were working just around the clock. And anyway, we get home, we had a cook and a guard. I mean, we had 2 guards, a cook, a maid, and a gardener. And this place was kind of set up as a temporary resort rental. They were kind of designed for people to come stay for a week. Well, they didn't really figure on us staying for 6 months. We kind of settled into a pattern where they stopped lighting our cigarettes and bringing us beers, and they're like, you're on your own. But they wouldn't cook dinner, so we'd get home. We were all sitting around dinner one night, and it's me and Bill and our prop master was Dave Kaler. You remember him? Yeah. And so we get home, and he goes, Curtis, did you see the new script revisions? I was like, I don't ever look at those. They don't have anything to do with me. It's like, this is what the actors are gonna say. And he goes, your drums are in it. I go, what do you mean? And he goes, and he handed me the script revision. And it's just a single page. It says, exterior, Solomon's Bar, nighttime, a band is playing. Next thing you know, my drums are being air freighted from Athens, Georgia to Jamaica. They're flown overseas, and it's just enough. I mean, it's an expense. People go to a lot of trouble to do this. And it was enough. It throws flares out in LA. People are calling back, they're calling our producer going, what the fuck? You can't find goddamn drums in the middle of, you're in the land of music. You can't find drums there. You have to fly them in from Atlanta. What the hell? And our producer, who happened to be our singer in the band, he's like, oh, no, special drums, we need these. And that was enough, so he was the producer. So our producer was the singer. Our Trampo coordinator played bass. His second played guitar. Our lead actor was the keyboard player. All the actresses were the ooh-ah background vocals. And we were the house band, so we would play at all of our parties. And that was, Tom comes down. So our house, our beachfront villa, turned out, it was a swinging place. And so we had a regular cast of characters coming through there. It was just an open invitation to anybody that wanted to come hang with us. And so Tom came down, and we were going to have a Halloween party. It was another Halloween party. You and I seem to have a thing about Halloween, don't we? It's kind of a theme, the Halloween theme. So, and anytime anybody came from the States, they would call and go, what do you need? And we'd go, newspapers, magazine, any information. Because this was before the internet. This was before cell phones. This is before, and we didn't have a television in our house.
Give us the year. I mean, just to get
94.
94. Okay.
We didn't have a television in the house. There was, the radio played, local stuff, and I couldn't understand a word they said anyway. And the newspaper, the headline of the big newspaper one day was, donkey shortage hampers rural life. Bestiality cited as a significant problem in several areas. This is the headline of their national newspaper. This is the lead article. So that's kind of that's where their focus was. In the meantime, we've got a national election going on. I don't know, you remember Ross Perot was running?
Yes.
And that was back then. So there was a lot going on that we were just like completely disconnected from and hungry for any information. And besides that,
The Atlanta Braves.
the Atlanta Braves were going into they were about to become national champions. So there was so much that we were just hungry to get information on. It's like, please bring us any just current news and meat, any kind of good meat. And so
I grabbed a ribeye.
Yeah, he brought in a big ribeye. The best one though was when not Jane, Bill's older sister, not Cherie. Gail. Yes, Gail came down. She smuggled in a whole rack of ribs, tucked up under her shirt. Usually what happened is you came through customs, if you had a good piece of meat, the customs guys were just like, that's us, thank you. And they just take it from you. But she smuggled in, and she was smart enough. She'd done this enough
She's
times.
traveled the world.
Oh, she's been all over the world 100 times. She'd smuggle a whole rack of ribs under her shirt. But that Halloween coming up, Tom called and goes, "We're coming down. What can we bring?" And I went, "A Halloween costume." And he goes, "Oh, I got you. And so, it was you and Johnny Grimes, and Johnny said, "Oh, I got just the thing he needs," and it was a gold lame jumpsuit and some white. What were those shoes? Some crazy ass white shoes that I had.
Huge. Yeah,
they're like big white clown shoes or something.
6-inch platforms.
It was something crazy like that, and it was like, oh, this is perfect. So we ended up playing it, and everybody was living in these castles. I mean, we were living in these really fantastic, beachside villas with cooks and maids and armed guards and gardeners and all this. I mean, it was like seriously Heart of Darkness stuff, and it was like, oh my God, we are such pirates down here. And so we played at each other's parties, and we played at that party.
Yeah. Curtis, let me interrupt there.
The good news is Joanne and I are paying for everybody's dinner, so you don't keep your wallets in your person. So
Thank you.
yes. You've honored us by coming here, and you honor Curtis, and he's going to give us a little bite to eat here. Then I'm going to send it back to you because you're on a roll. Keep on the roll, everybody.
Did you ever see like bales of marijuana wash up?
Yeah, Brian
no, we
McNair
never
was
saw
the guy from
anything
Marietta
like that.
that helped him start the,
Brian-
what was Brian McNair's?
Brian McNair.
Role in, it was in the 40 Watt Club when they opened that up.
You know, he's Carol Smith's, brother, I think.
Buddy knows everybody.
Buddy knows
I'm not
everybody.
sure. I just wanted to
Well, there was a bunch of
say
McNair boys.
Same
Yeah.
time.
Russell, Brian.
David.
Uh-huh. David was
And then
mine,
had a young sister too.
Yeah, what was her name?
the sister.
I can't remember.
Okay, before we got some salmon here. Eat some of it, or else I'm going to take it all home.
Well, we're not going right home, so
Oh,
we
that's
can't
right.
take any, so.
Well, you can't ask me you can't have it
I can drop some off at your
refrigerated.
house.
It's gonna be so cold outside.
Well,
That's
not
true.
today, though, it's
Yeah.
gonna
We're
be.
going to a funeral after this.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
We'd be there.
I can ask them to box some up, but you all take some home too.
Yeah, take some
I
home.
know Jeannie.
We're going to.
I'll tell Jeanette that you said hello.
Will
Please,
do.
please.
Okay, we're going to a funeral in Mays Ward of Talmadge Woodman, who's the father of Steve Woodman, who's a local lawyer. Okay. He got a few bites in, but yeah, you're working for your lunch, so back to you.
You have to work
We're
for your
your
life.
palace down in Jamaica, living the good life. It's a shame it had to come to an end.
I know. Well, that was one of those, like,
But it was a pretty good run.
that was a
Yes,
great
for a
one.
while.
Well, I gotta say,
You
you
were there
know,
for 4 years or?
well, no, that 4 months turned into one solid year.
Okay.
And I found out after the fact, this really hurt me.
And I
is
made
that,
4 trips down there.
yeah, you make several trips down
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Tom even got his own driver.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he's a regular.
Yeah.
He asked about you a lot.
Yeah.
He did.
Question.
What about the wife and the child?
Yeah, that's what happened?
Oh,
It was tough on them.
Actually, they moved down. They did.
well, they came down for a while. She was terrified of being in Jamaica because, I mean, this is a scary place. And she's got a, and well, she did, sure, well, our daughter was born while we were down there. And I missed that because she came early and I had a flight scheduled to go home and everything. And I get a call and it's like, you have a daughter. It's like, what? That was supposed to happen like 2 weeks from now. And so, so I flew home and, had a newborn at home. It's a tough life. Rock and roll was similar in that we would go out on the road and then we'd come back. The difference being, I'm now going out on the road and coming back with money in my pocket. So that helped,
Yeah.
but it didn't fix things. And so, as you can imagine, that marriage finally imploded. I mean, we still talking. Kids, we're great. The kids are all grown up now. They got their own kids. We all move on. But it's a tough way to make a living. It can be. Like my dad used to say, it's like, son, when you grow up, you're gonna have a choice to make. He says you can either decide what you want to do and go wherever it is they do that, or you can decide where you want to live and find something to do there. And I thought, that's sage advice like my dad is prone to do. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do both. Which I did, but it was pure dumb luck. I mean, I didn't plan any of that. It's just the movie industry followed me back here to Georgia. And it's just one show turned into the next, and it's like gig economy. You start a job.
Tell us some of the movies and TV shows that we would recognize that you built the sets for.
And also, when you came back after you finished that one, was there a segue? Like, did you start on a new job immediately, or did it take a while to kind of reestablish in Georgia?
Back in those days, I was doing I had construction jobs in Athens, so I'd get home on a Friday. I'd be working on a Monday, so I always had stuff to do. But I was just a boy in his truck carpenter, fixing people's porches and rebuilding kitchens and stuff like that. But I think we were home from that gig. We did Going to Extremes. I had 2 weeks off, and then we came right back and went into Cool Runnings. Do you remember Cool Runnings?
And
The
back
Jamaican
in
bobsled team. Yeah, way back. And what I discovered after having, at the very, very end of that year, and I'm doing my taxes, and my accountant goes, oh, it's a shame you came home for those 2 weeks. Otherwise, this would have been tax-free income because you were out of the country for a year. I was like, oh my God. I could have stayed in a high-end hotel for 2 weeks and lived it up and made money had I stayed there. I didn't know. And so it's like, so live and learn. But then we had a little stint down in the islands for a while. We went from there to St. Martin. And again, Tabor, he calls me and says, I might have a job, but I can't, they won't let me bring anybody on yet. I was like, okay. And I hadn't heard anything. I called him up and said, hey man, listen, I'm going to the beach with the family for a little while. If you need me, here's the phone number at the beach house. He was okay. So I drive down to the beach and I just had an uh-oh feeling. So I said, I'm going to take my own car. And so I drive separately, and the wife and kids go down. We all go down there. We get in the driveway. We're walking into the house, and I hear the phone ringing. And Bill goes, where are you? I said, I'm at the beach where I told you I was going to be. It's the number you're calling at Jekyll Island. And he goes, what's the closest airport? I went, well, that'd be Jacksonville, but that's not going to help me because I got my car here. He goes, how soon can you get there? I was like, I guess tomorrow. And he goes, well, all right, I'm going to get a plane ticket for you. I was like, right, so I dropped the wife and the kids at the house, kiss them goodbye, see you later. Drive all the way back up to Athens, grab the few things I need, drive to Atlanta, go, have somebody drive into the airport. I go up to the American Airlines desk, and I said, hey, I've got a ticket. And she goes, oh, okay, where's it to? And I said, it's to Martinique. And she goes, oh my goodness. This ticket says you're going to St. Martin. I was like, oh, yeah, that's it, St. Martin. She goes, you don't even know where you're going? I said, I'm going wherever that ticket says I'm going. So I get on the plane, I fly to St. Martin, I get off the plane, Bill picks me up at the airport, takes me directly to a job site, and we go to work for, like all day in the sun, just go all day. And at the end of the day, I made the fatal mistake of telling him it was my birthday. And he goes, oh, we have to celebrate. And so he takes me up in the hills, and oh boy,
Partnering with Bill.
you better pack a lunch and bring some sunglasses. So
Change of underwear.
So that was a but yeah, beyond that, I mean, after that we did about 2 or 3 shows down in the Caribbean, and then the first job I ever got in the state of Georgia, working here in the state of Georgia, was a thing called We Are Marshall. Do you remember that one?
Yes,
Football movie?
yes.
Yeah, I did We Are Marshall. I built the plane crash out there. Okay. That plane crash, interestingly enough, so the designer says, all right, we need the aftermath. We watched all these documentaries about it, and I'd gone up to Huntington, West Virginia, and we were going to film part of it in Huntington, in downtown Huntington. And so we went up there as the art department to do a scout and measure things, and we're going to put signs in the windows and make it look, like it did back in 1970, 71, whatever it was. It was a period movie, so we had to change the town enough to make it look like that again. But we're using the real town. And while I'm there, 5 separate people came up and said, are you doing the movie? And I was like, yeah. I had friends on that plane. Don't fuck this up. I'm like, wow. Or that was my family on there. And every single person in that town knew somebody, was related somehow, connected somehow to that tragedy. So and I came back from that trip and I went to the producer's office, and I was like, hey, just got back from Huntington. How'd it go? And he goes, oh, it's great. That was, I said, I did get some, several people came up. I said, 5 people came up to me and asked me if we were doing the movie. And so they told me, don't fuck this up. And so I thought I'd just pass it on to you. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Just when I needed the extra pressure, But so the plane crash, Tom, the designer I work with, who's, he always, whatever he told you, it was a fraction of what you were really going to do. He was always going, oh, I just need this little thing. And the next thing you know, it's just huge. And so he calls me at one point, he's out on a scout, and he goes, you know, so we just need a plane crash site and a plane. And I'd seen the photos, and footage of the stuff. There wasn't much left of that plane. It plowed into a mountain going about 300 miles an hour, and there was nothing left. It flames and trees, and I thought, you know, the way to do this is go up to North Georgia, find a plot of trees that somebody owns, say, we'll buy all these trees from you, and we're going to do our scene, we're going to make a big mess, we're going to burn trees up and break them all up, and then later we'll clean it all up and replant trees for you. And that sounded logical, right? I get a call from the scout, and he goes, Curtis, how much would it cost to build a forest? And I'm like, and I started laughing, and he goes, no, I'm serious, really. I was like, do you want a real number or a fuck you number? Are you trying, I mean, because quite often you get these crazy requests, and the job is to kill it.
Yeah.
By putting a real big number on it, just to make people stop thinking stupid things. And he says, no, we need a real number on this one. I'm like, all right, okay. So I came up with, I think it's like $150,000 or something, whatever it was. And so, okay, we're going to build a farce. So we go out by Charlie Brown Airport, and there's a field, there's this big kind of bowl-shaped field right next to Charlie Brown. And it's just a field about the size of 2 football fields. And we get out there and we bring in truckloads of trees and we got this, you know, big Komatsu excavator out there with, you know, and we'd stick the trees in the ground and then you'd reach up with a machine and snap the trees off to make them look naturally broken. And we've got the plane out there, which is a DC-9, I think. We bought the plane out of Mojave Desert. And there's a boneyard out there that anytime you got plane movies, you go out there and get them. They got everything. And so we ship a whole plane cross country. We, you know, stuff this thing in the ground. We, you know, put broken trees all around it. And there's a kid that was working out there one day, and he gets injured. And I get this call from the designer, and he goes, somebody just got injured on your job site out there. And there's a life flight helicopter on the way to get him right now. I was like, oh, fuck. This is like career killer stuff. And, you know, besides somebody being injured like that, I mean, it's like, holy shit. So I jump in my car, and I'm racing down I-20 to see what's going on. Now I see, there goes the helicopter overhead, you know, with the Red Cross on the underside. Like, holy shit, what's going on? So I pull into the site, and I go to we have a medic. We always have a medic on site whenever we're out there. And I go to the medic, I was like, Christian, what happened? And he goes in, there's, you know, official mode, and he goes, well, you know, he was standing under a tree when, you know, they snapped a limb off and it hit him in the head, and he had, you know, multiple contusions, and he was out for a little while. I said, you know, out cold? He was out cold for a few minutes, but he came to, and his eyes, you know, seemed clear, and he knew where he was and everything. And I said, you know, was his neck broken? What was wrong? He goes, no, he had a cut on his head. It's probably going to require about 15 stitches. And I was like, what was up with a life flight helicopter? And he goes, I don't know. I don't know why that got called in. And so you didn't call him. And he goes, no, I just called. You know, his protocol is to do immediate first aid assistance and then call the proper authorities. At this time, it was Fulton County Fire and Rescue. So Fulton County Fire and Rescue pulls down the scene, sees a plane crash, and calls in a life flight helicopter.
They called him in a real crash.
So this guy
They're trying to make it be even more dramatic.
So this guy got you know, a ride to the hospital. He had a little cut on his head. He got a ride to the hospital in a helicopter. Yeah, this is cool. I like this. It was about a $5,000 plane. The production was like, we're not paying for that.
$50,000.
Oh yeah, whatever it was, they were like, we're not paying for this, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, you're right. So that was a kind of a left-handed compliment that you get.
Yes.
It looks so good that the fire and rescue people believed it. But you got to think, it's like, come on, this has got to be the calmest plane crash ever. I mean, it's like there's no smoke, there's no flames, there's people walking around. We have craft service, for Christ's sake. You know, we're serving, you know, food and drinks. Yeah, we got water, and we're listening to music. It's like, come on, does this look like what you would expect an immediate aftermath of a plane crash to look like? You know, they're just so trained to see disaster. They saw disaster.
Well, listen,
Can I add something?
Sure.
Okay, when one of us visits down to Curtis and visit Curtis and Bill down in Jamaica. So I'm with my driver, and he's driving me up to the store, and I'm gonna buy a case of beer. So we have a blowout, and he had this beat up old Toyota with no interior panels on it. I mean, the seat was just, it had a driver's seat and a passenger seat, and the back seat didn't have any seats in it. And there was no interior on no covers on the windows, on the doors. So, I mean, just, there's the window, you could roll the window down and there was the glass.
In other words, it was a really nice car.
Yeah, it was a beautiful car.
Jamaican style.
So anyway, we're driving along, and I mean, this guy was just a fabulous guy. So, but we have a blowout on the highway, and we're stopped and we're changing the tire, and there's this fire behind me, and I'm a photographer, right? So there's a fire going on behind me. I see this smoke just billowing up, black smoke billowing up out of this field, and I went, wow, what in the world's going on there? So I turn around, and I got my camera, and I'm taking pictures, and there's this guy walking towards me out of the fire's raging behind him. There's big black smoke billowing behind him, and I got a zoom lens on it. I put it on it, and there's Curtis Crowe, and he's got this red bandana on his head, and he's covered in soot. He got, I mean, just looks like hell coming out of the bush. And I take a picture of that, and then when I got back to Atlanta, I printed out an 8x10, and I gave it to his dad, and his dad put it up in his office, and he goes, "My son, the pirate."
Well, let's.
Let me ask you a question. So, the people that you kind of
Use the
established,
microphone, please.
the people that you established the relationship with when you were down in Jamaica, the guy Tom, I think. Did you kind of travel with that group? Was it this?
Not
the people.
really.
Okay, so once you established your skill
Somewhat,
set.
the weird thing about that business.
Go back.
Oh, sorry. One of the things about that business, like I guess like sports is probably the same way, or music business definitely, but that business is a really small world.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of the same people over and over again, but not always. So, whenever I take on a new job, it's like a standalone project. I get hired, they call me up and say, "Hey, can you do this job?" And I go, "Sure." And I show up and I find out who I'm working with. And so quite often you'll know people, "Oh, hey, good to see you again." Like, down in St. Martin, there's this, I had a truck and I was driving, from one side of the mountain to the island. It's this really mountainous island. And I was living in a little French town called Grand Case on one side, and we were working down in Phillipsburg on the Dutch side. And we could drive, you could get there around the island on proper roads. It'd take you about an hour. Or you could spend about 20 minutes and drive over the top of the mountain, but it's on a rutted out dirt road that you would not find. I mean, you're pretty much driving through a hole in the bushes. And at the top of this hill, there's this it's somebody's house, but they turned it into a bar. And the locals call it the Chicken Ranch. And so anyway, I go up to the Chicken Ranch for drinks after work one day, and I pull up in there and I sit down in this dark bar, and I sit down, and this guy next to me goes, "Hey, Curtis." And it's like, "What the?" And it's like this guy that I knew that I'd worked with, he's an accountant I'd worked with on a couple of other shows, like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, I got so many questions. Like, I'm at this, I'm in the middle of a jungle on a dirt road in the middle of a foreign country, and this guy sits down and goes, "Hey, how you doing?" It's like, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "Same thing you are. I'm working on this show." And it's just, that's how we, run into each other. We see each other like that. And I gotta say, even today, I rarely watch a movie that I don't know one person on, or two or three people on. It's just pretty much whenever because it's it is a small world. I mean, it's awfully big. I wouldn't want to paint it, but it's.
Steve had a question. You had a question?
Well, actually, my question was.
So if I was watching me, that'd be awkward. I'd hate it. And I have tried my hand at acting before, and I'm terrible at it. I'm really bad. I did the show Lost. You know Lost? And we were doing the first season of Lost, and the executive producer comes up one day and he goes, "Curtis, I want you to play the part of," and I can't remember his name, but in Lost, there's a character that Hurley is the big fat guy.
Yeah.
And he meets this guy while he's in an insane asylum. And the crazy guy says these series of numbers over and over again. And that's what Hurley, he just gets so beat up with these numbers, he goes out, and first thing he does when he gets out is he buys a lottery ticket using those numbers, and he becomes the big winner. And that's the whole setup. But me being a smart ass that I am, he goes, I want you to play that part. And, little did I know, it becomes this big pivotal role. He lasted for the next 2-3 seasons, And I go, well, do I get a SAG card for saying numbers, or does it have to be words? And he goes, all right. So when you speak, when you have a speaking role in a movie like that, SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, has to offer you a membership. And once you get a membership, it's like being a made man. You're like a made man at that point, and you get residuals and stuff like that. So that's real mailbox money there.
Yes.
But that was enough to kill my acting career. My little snarky comeback was enough to.
Where did they shoot Boss?
In Oahu. Yeah. Oahu. Yeah, Hawaii. But watching the things, I watch them differently than other people watch them because I'm looking for details, and I know what went on around the corner, and I know how that day was. One show we did was a thing called The Way of the Gun. So Benicio del Toro, Ryan Philippe, Tate Diggs, Juliette Lewis. No, not Dreyfus. God, I can't think of his name. He played Sonny in all the Godfather movies. What's Robert?
James Caan.
James Caan. Yeah, James Caan. Yeah, James Caan. So anyway, we built this town out in the desert, and it's like the most remarkable achievement ever because people with zero talent were an hour and a half away from anything that even resembles civilization, and we did this in like 22 days. And it's a proper town. It's like a whole town, and it was just unbelievable that we could pull this thing off in the amount of time we had with the money that we had. It was a real feat. So fast forward, the movie comes out. I go to see it at the movie theater, and it's a shoot 'em up movie. And there's this, it had been, the idea is just that, back in the 1500s or something, this big monastery was built out in the desert. And then since then, it's been turned into a brothel and a whorehouse, and it's a really rough place. And so these guys are meeting up to do the big money handoff out there, and a big shootout occurs out there. So it's a shoot 'em up. So we built this place in just record time. I just couldn't believe how quickly we pulled this thing off. It was just like pulling a giant rabbit out of a little hat. And I go to see the movie, and here's Benicio del Toro leaning up against the door jamb with his gun in this building that was built in the 1600s, and right behind his head is a hinge with a drywall screw in it. About the size of a basketball up on the screen. And I was just like, oh, God. And so later, it's like, so Tom, the designer, calls me later and goes, hey, did you see the movie? What'd you think? I said, it looked pretty good. He goes, what'd you think about that drywall screw? I said, oh, God damn it. It's like, you and me are the only people that ever saw that. Nobody saw that. He goes, well, you and me and everybody like us.
Yeah, I spot those.
And I was
things
like,
too.
oh, fuck. And he's right. He's right. It's so, and I see those things. I saw, a drywall screw in a submarine movie a little while back. And I was just like, oh, you poor bastard. He's just working his ass off, and he misses that one thing. And yet, that's the only thing that's left. And so that's what I hate. I see those things and I go, oh God.
Or missing a ring.
Anything, any of those things.
Around the wrong way.
They all turn into the blooper reel later. And it's like, good God, y'all don't give me any grace for the miracles that we pull out. You only remember, and again, that was another one that was like number 3 on Tabor's list when we were sitting in his house drinking a bottle of rum. He goes, it takes 10 attaboys to undo one whoa shit. And I'm like, yeah. You're pretty much right about that. He says, they give out whoa shits like candy at Halloween. And they don't give you attaboys for anything. And so, yeah, it takes a long time to
I want you to conclude about, he built his own house in Arnoldsville, Georgia, which is east of at Athens. But I found fascinating that most of the materials that he used to build his house are from movie sets, because they build them and then they tear them down, and then you have all this extra construction material, and you utilize it. Tell them.
That's right.
You know, this particular room is from a set movie, or you know, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I've had friends suggest that I should put little plaques around the house saying, this is from this movie, this is from that movie.
Yeah.
All the we were doing a movie called Lewis and Clark. It was for HBO, and it never came out because they started filming it up in Vancouver, and they were going to shoot this thing in reverse order. They were going to shoot it from the end of the trip back to the beginning of the trip. And the reason they were doing this is because they needed these guys to have facial hair. And facial hair, it's hard to fake it, to make it look really good, especially action scenes out in the woods and all this stuff. So they were like, we'll start and we'll just trim their beards neater until they finally start in the very beginning. So we were doing the first part of the trip in Georgia. So they were up in Vancouver filming all the river scenes and all the really rough stuff. And so in the meantime, I'm building the 1803 White House, and I'm building Monticello. We had an interior and an exterior Monticello. I had an interior and an exterior White House. We had I had a whole factory set up building log cabin material. We were going to build a log cabin out by a river, and we were going to build all of downtown St. Louis.
Wow.
And and this is all just like, go. But it had to look really real. I mean, people are looking for that one little mistake, and you cannot make that mistake while you're building St. Louis. And so but like I always do, whenever I start these movies, I'm in the middle of it, and whatever we have a whole lot of something, I'm looking at it going, what can I use this for later? And in this particular case, I had 4,500 board feet of heart pine flooring.
Oh my gosh.
And I bought a bunch of heart pine. It's actually Caribbean heart pine. It's a different species, but it's really pretty wood. And I bought a shaper and knives, and I had guys standing around the clock running material through shapers and stacking this stuff up. 4,500 board feet. We stack it all up. I'm going, this is going to look great in my house. And I pretty much planned the whole inside of the house around this stuff. And then of course,
floor out.
yeah, and then of course they pull the plug on the show, and they're like, well, we want to do what they call a fold and hold, which is you got to take everything and put it in storage. So when they pull it back out later, they'll have everything ready. And HBO had done this before with John Adams. They started John Adams. They shut it down and waited for about a year and came back and picked it back up and finished the show. Beautiful work, beautiful stuff. So it was all very possible they were going to do that, but they shut it down, and we put all the stuff in a warehouse, and it all just went away later, and I never got to see it again. So in the meantime, I'm building the house going, well, I need some flooring. I'll keep my radar turned on. Well, we're doing Alvin and the Chipmunks 3. And my son goes, Dad, why are they making Alvin 3? I said, oh, that's easy. Because the other two made over $1 billion. And he goes, oh, okay, got it. So Alvin and the Chipmunks is just a cash cow. I mean, it just makes money hand over fist. And so we've got Dave's house. You remember Dave? Alvin, that's the Dave guy. So it's a live action with animation chipmunks in it. Yeah, shot in Atlanta. So we're building Dave's house. And in Dave's house, he has a really nice solid mahogany flooring throughout his house. And so when we're putting the flooring down, I tell the guys, like, all right, use nails sparingly and use these trim nails. And so they nailed it down sparingly and used trim nails instead of the proper fasteners you might normally use in a real house. And at the very end, I was telling the producer, I was like, hey man, I could use that flooring. What could we do? I'd really like to have that stuff. And he goes, just take it. You got it. Because they'd already got their money's worth out of it. They made their money. Once they took pictures of it, they're done. Now it goes from being a value to being a liability. Overnight, you've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of materials that suddenly now you're going to pay tens of thousands of dollars just to throw them away. So you got to get rid of it as fast as you possibly can. So oblige. We happily oblige. We make stuff go away. And so I call it my wife, and it's like, man, it's not really my style. It's a little fancier than I would normally take. It's like mahogany and a little darker than I like. And I had this kind of rustic house in my head of what I was gonna build a brand new old country farmhouse. But I take a picture of it and send it to my wife and go, what do you think? She goes, it's okay. How much is it? $3.
Right.
That's my favorite floor. I love that. So I put it in, and I've got a 4,000 square foot house, and we almost did every single room in the house. I'm just one room, and it's beautiful flooring, and it was all, so there's, the big I-beam.
So what?
I got a 40-foot I-beam holding up the ceiling.
And it's totally overbuilt. His house is totally overbuilt.
Well, we're gonna wrap it up now because people have to go. Let's give it up for Curtis Crowe. And also supporting staff, Tom Hunter and Gwen Roy Ross. And also very good questions, and you're welcome to stay later. The meal's been paid for, so don't sweat that. We have to go to a funeral now at Mays Ward. We're gonna walk there now, so y'all talk amongst yourselves.
Honey, we can't walk there because we're gonna get a ticket. We're gonna have to drive there.
We'll have to move our car so we don't get a ticket. Thank you.
you.
Signing off. Bye-bye, boys and girls.
Class dismissed.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, let's stay for a minute. I want to stay for a
Let me
minute.
take
It's
a
time.
picture.
Yeah, you need to eat more. Stay for a minute.
Yeah, stay.
Eat some pizza too.
And eat some pizza too. Take some home. Matter of fact, I'll get if this stuff doesn't go home, I'm gonna get a box for me. I got a 12-year-old who would love the
Well, I'm
pizza.
taking pictures now.
Yeah, I'll get a box. Oh, there's one. Yeah, I'll definitely.
Which is not open anymore.
Last week, yeah.
They had turned, donated to the University of Georgia, collection. So it's up at the University of Georgia.
Do they have the collection on display?
So do you enjoy?
They were
Joanne,
planning.